And there we have it. The final whistle blows, and Lionel Messi and Inter Miami are out of the FIFA Club World Cup in what was pretty much a game of two halves. The first half, PSG absolutely slaughtered Inter Miami. It didn't even feel like PSG were trying to. I feel like if they actually turned it up a gear, they could have probably scored like seven in that half. Inter Miami had no chance. They lost the ball every time they won it. And that was the few times they won it because most of the game was just PSG knocking it about in that first half. And, they got their goal straight away from João Neves. I actually missed the goal because I was making myself a sandwich. So, but as soon as that goal went in, I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch the game to watch Messi, to see what happens. But I knew that Miami didn't have a chance. And yeah, they sealed it in the first half, PSG. They never scored again. And I'm not going to go through all the goals, but pretty much they were all defensive errors and PSG just outclassing Inter Miami. You had, people not tracking and marking their man. You had Busquets giving away just a cheap ball for the second goal, I think it was. And yeah, that's it. The second half, Miami played much better. They actually started having some chances for themselves. PSG clearly were just content with sitting back, not necessarily even sitting back, just not going as forward and just controlling the play, making sure they don't concede. And they got the result that they needed, and they are through to the quarterfinals. Now, I think it's time we accept three things. Luis Suarez, leave the football before the football leaves you. And I think the football's left him. Jordi Alba, the football's left him. Sergio Busquets, the football's almost left you, son. I mean, him giving the goal away, the second goal, it was just so uncharacteristic of Busquets. He's usually such a composed, calm player under possession. That's what everyone knows about Busquets and what everyone raves about him. That's what makes him such a good player. His ability to stay composed in these situations. But what are you doing, mate? You're literally the last man for your team. You're doing some fancy two-touch. If you're doing that, you have to get it right. And he does it, and he loses the ball to the attacker, and João Neves gets his second. Lionel Messi, though, look, that first half, he was anonymous, but so was everyone on that team. Everyone was anonymous. Second half, mate, he was just showing us yet again why Messi, although he's not in his prime anymore, athletically nor just ability-wise, this guy is still, up there. This guy can still compete with the big dogs. He can still compete with the big players. And that pass he made for Luis Suarez, that one touch over the top, that's a world-class ball. You can't name me more than maybe three players that can play that pass in world football. That is one thing he's never lost. That touch, that first touch, that pass. And Luis Suarez, bro, literally exhibit 700 as to why this guy, the football's left him. You are one-on-one with the keeper. All you have to do is just control it down and finish it, or just whack it first time through the tight angle. I don't know what he tries to do. I don't know if he tries to shoot it first time or if he tries to bring it down. He makes a mess of it. Donnarumma collects. And that's one of probably the biggest chances of the game for Inter Miami gone. And Messi again had a few other chances. He had a couple shots for himself. One was a header, which was stopped by Donnarumma. The other one was just a low-driven shot with his left foot. But look, no one really had that much of a chance from Inter Miami's perspective, except for maybe that Luis Suarez, fumble. But yeah, Messi for me was by far Inter Miami's best player, as expected. He was making runs. Some of the passes he was playing, like I said, were magnificent. But bro, this was no help at all. Inter Miami for me, genuinely, are one of the worst clubs I've ever watched. And in that first half, I thought I was going to witness another Bayern Munich versus Auckland. I thought PSG were going to make it double digits, at least. They could go into the triples. It was that bad. And Messi gave him some light in the second half, but it's not easy. It's not easy when you're one flashlight in a room of just darkness, That's what it was like. He was the only person trying to make something happen. And yeah, it's sad to see what's happened to the other three. Busquets, Jordi Alba, Suarez. I mean, they're clearly not as interested. They're clearly not as bothered. And they're clearly not as good. And that's a shame, but it is how it is. It's what happens. And look, PSG took advantage of that, and that's it. They're through, and Inter Miami are out. I don't think Inter Miami did a good job qualifying for the knockouts, I think that's something they can be proud of. I think they're the only MLS club to do so. They're also the only MLS club to beat a European side when they beat Porto. So there's some positive to take. There's certainly some positives to take for, back home to Miami. Well, they're already at home. They're already in the United States. But you know what I mean? There's some positives for them to move forward. And on PSG's, for PSG, they just took care of business today. Another day at the office. No stress. There was never a moment of doubt. Controlled the play when they had to. Scored when they had to. Could have had more, but they got the 4. That's all they really need to do. And they're through to the quarterfinals, where I think they'll face either Bayern Munich or Flamengo. And that tie will be tonight. I probably won't make a video on it unless it's a crazy game. I'll see if I watch it or not. And yeah, that should be an interesting tie if Bayern Munich do go through, because we know these clubs have a bit of history in the Champions League, whether it's the Champions League finals, semi-finals. They've both had their goes at each other. And I think both clubs are at the point where, they're two of the favourites. PSG just won the Champions League. Bayern Munich are a very strong side. And it'll be really interesting to watch if, Bayern Munich beat Flamengo, which they should. Now, just a little side note. I wonder what happens next for Messi. He's obviously still in contract into Miami, I believe, for 1 or 2 more years. And what do you lot think is going to happen? Because I'm not sure. I would like to see him leave into Miami, because for me, the MLS is just not where Messi should be. It's such a dry league. Inter Miami is such a dry team, and he's really the only highlight of the team, and he deserves better. I think he should try come back to Europe, but that's really unrealistic, because who's going to pay him the wages he wants? Who's going to accommodate the team for a 38-year-old? Who's going to be willing to make sacrifices in the team? Who's going to be willing to sell other players to sign Messi? So it's complicated, but it's just purely as a Messi fan, I would like to see him back in Europe. I think that's where he can still perform at. I genuinely do. There was a point in time where I thought, Messi's doing it in MLS, but much like Ronaldo's doing it in Saudi, he's just doing it because it's a poor league. He doesn't actually have it in him. Now I've kind of changed my mind. I have kind of changed my mind. I think Messi is still, a very, very good player. And I think he's still one of the best in the world. So I genuinely do believe that if he came back to Europe, he could do the business. But I just don't think it's in him anymore. I think he's fully committed to Argentina. He sees, the international tournaments as more, exclusive, more special. There's less of them, so they're more important to him. And that's where he focuses, and puts his energy into. So I think his club career is done, man. I don't think there's a next chapter after Inter Miami. I think if there is, it's either a move to Argentina or a move back to Barcelona, both of which seem a bit unlikely. Argentina can't pay the wages, so Messi will have to take a big pay cut to go there. And Barcelona, firstly, probably can't pay his wages either. But also, they've got a young and exciting team. Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams now. Signing Messi just doesn't make sense for them, especially considering the striker they've got is banging in the goals, and he's also aging. So they wouldn't want to, replace him with a Messi who's not even a striker, who's also aging. So I don't see any next step for Messi. I think this is it. Into Miami, it's done. This was the last chance for us, I think, to watch Lionel Messi on a global, continental or intercontinental stage. I think that's done. I think this was the last time we'll ever see him. We enjoyed that second half performance. He gave us the goal against Porto. Thank you, Messi. One of the greatest of all times. What am I on about? The greatest of all time. Undisputed. Lionel Messi. Thanks for all the memories you've given us. If this is it, club-wise, we appreciate it. But look, PSG took care of business today. We all knew it was going to happen. And yeah, that's all. I will see you lot next time, probably tomorrow. And yeah, in a bit.